Thank you so much for coming. My name is Aya. I'm part of Student Government Association. Student government, we basically represent the student body, and we advocate and do what we can to make sure that the students' voices are heard and that we are doing what we can when it comes to, again, what matters to students and then what matters to everyone on campus. Before I tell you the details of the program, I would first like everyone here to introduce themselves.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rafid Al-Jabouri. I'm the founder and chairman of iPac, which is Integrity Political Action Committee. And the organization was created in the wake of October 7th.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Miko Peled. And thank you. And thank you for inviting me. And I currently also the founder and the head of the Palestine House of Freedom, Dar Alhurriya in Washington, D.C.
I'm Lisa. Thank you for coming. I am a board member of iPac, and I'm from Portland, Oregon, so I'm happy to be here today.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Pali Viking. I'm a recording artist from Columbus, Ohio, and an activist for over 10 years. Stick around afterwards. We have something special for you guys.
So the program is gonna start with Miko speaking a little bit, and then we're gonna open up the floor for a Q&A. So definitely make sure you have your questions ready, and then we're going to be having, well, I don't know if I should say, but a little surprise for you at the end too. So thank you.
iPac was created basically, as I said earlier, on the wake of October 7th. And the reason behind that is we do know there is a lot of lobbying organizations in the country. However, all of them lobby for the wrong reasons. They do not lobby for anything that benefits the average American, nor do they stand with any humanitarian cause or righteous cause for that matter. I mean, everybody knows AIPAC. AIPAC is behind all the detriment of the policies that is happening in the United States, especially those who are hostile to the Palestinian cause. And their focus is only on a singular issue. That is the benefit of Israel, not the benefit of the United States, although they operate in the United States, not the benefit of the American citizens. Rather, it's just the benefit of a colony. I would like not to call it a colony because, in my opinion, it is not a state. Israel didn't have the right to, the United Nations did not have the right to give away a land they don't own, nor do they have any legal base to that. So AIPAC, in essence, is a grassroots movement. Grassroots movement that's rally the average Americans who care about the future of this country, and not just the future of this country, rather care also about the rest of humanity. Because everything happened beyond the border of the United States, people unfortunately think is not going to affect us. It will. And it is affecting us right now. But they think because it didn't hit their pockets personally, it didn't hit their business personally, they didn't lose, God forbid, loved one, while millions of other people in the Middle East especially losing loved ones every single day, rather every single minute. Because the United States got involved in now military campaign on behalf of the colony of Israel, not just in Palestine itself. We're funding everything, but in Yemen, in Syria, in Lebanon, before that in Iraq, before that in Afghanistan. And what do we benefit from in here? Nothing. We just put $800 billion in budget for the Pentagon, although we are not at war. So we need an organization that really work on representing the people. And our goal is to become basically countering AIPAC. AIPAC pays congressmen and senators to lobby for their bills and their bills only. bills that benefit them. So we want to change the status quo, change that paradigm by electing political officials that actually represent the people and not warlords, because that's what we have right now. We have warlords in the White House, in the Congress, in the Senator. So please try to support not just our organization, any organization with that goal, honestly, to do the right thing for this country, the future of the children in this country, the future of you as students. We're spending more money. We're 32nd ranking in education around the world. They call it the greatest country in the world. Yet we rank 32nd in education. The foundation of great nation is education. If we rank 32nd, we're not a great nation. Just as simple as that. So please try to be more involved in activism and politics, because change doesn't come while we're sitting at home. Change doesn't come while we are enacting. From inaction. It comes from action. If you cannot do something on the ground, at least speak up. Speak up against wrongdoings. People now being arrested for no legal basis in the United States. And when this is going to end? It has to end. It's turning into dictatorism. Malcolm X has a really great quote. He said, absolute power corrupts, but powerlessness corrupts even more. And that's exactly what's happening. They have absolute power in the United States government. They can do whatever they want. And corruption is spread across the government branches, from dark money to outright bribes, honestly, just under a legal label. And that needs to end. The power is in the people. The people just conceded their power to the powerful now, what we call them powerful. But they are not really powerful. We as citizens conceded our power to them. There is statistics in each nation. In order to have impactful political change, 3.5% of the population needs to be actively involved in the political process, or actively involved in political activism, basically against that regime, in order to change it. So in the United States, you need to have at least 35 million people that would, or 3.5 million or 35. I cannot even do the math now. 35, at least in millions, in several millions, in order to be able to enact change, and in order for this size of the nation to be actually that impactful change, it needs to be actually in the tens of millions. And we don't have that now. We have to have more activism, more involvement in the policies, and we have to have somebody that represent the people, and just, we voted them in, let's vote them out. And let's change that system.
Well said, Rafid. I'm Lisa. As was mentioned before, I'm a board member of iPac. I'm really honored to be here today and introduce Miko Peled. I wrote this because I thought a lot of students would be here, but I'm guessing a lot of you already know who he is. And if you don't, his book, The General's Son, is a firsthand account of growing up Israeli. I have these super dorky cards that I made because his book meant a lot to me, and I don't want to forget any important points. So his book brings powerful insight to the past and present situation in Palestine. Like maybe some of you, I was compelled to do my own research, and I found that not very many people talk about the situation, and growing up as an American, I didn't hear a lot about it. Israel was really glorified. I didn't hear a lot about Palestine. I was left with a lot of questions after my research. And then in 2023, I started talking to Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. I started to get to know them. And while simultaneously they were being attacked, their homes were being destroyed, their families were being killed. And I was angry and I was confused. And I had this sense that I really wanted to hear as many human and personal stories as I could to kind of get to the bottom of it, because I wasn't coming up with a lot of understanding. And as an American, I know that I'm never going to understand all of it, you know. A turning point for me, though, was reading Miko's book, The General's Son, Journey of an Israeli in Palestine. His unique, strong story and compassionate response to being raised in an Israeli Zionist prominent military family is a story which brought me a lot of needed clarity and inspiration, also resolve to help in any way that I can. Earlier in his life, he met and befriended Palestinians, despite being told that they were not safe people for him, despite being told that Palestinian territory was not safe for him. And he made a choice to have an open mind and seek connections and answers. I believe that we're all capable of this type of seeking, even in the most difficult and the most frightening circumstances. He continues to make a choice to speak truth and promote peace and solution in the midst of propaganda, fear, and at its worst, hatred, greed, and destruction. His story, should I keep going? His story, his openness, and his pursuit for truth and compassion, I believe, offer a shining light to the growing movement for peace and freedom in Palestine. And I'm very happy to welcome you tonight, Miko. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Sure. Well, thank you again for the beautiful introduction. Thank you all for being here. It's great to sit with all of you here on the panel. I want to start, first of all, by thanking the student body for organizing this. And yeah, to give them a hand of applause. And I want to remind everyone that students on campuses in this country, I think, contribute more, or maybe they, not just more, contribute the most to the liberation of Palestine than anyone else outside of Palestine. Outside of Palestinians in Palestine, nobody does what students on campuses have been doing, not only since October 7, this is going back for many, many years. The students on campuses, you guys have been able to raise the level of conversation on Palestine like no one else. No one has been able to do what students have been doing. And of course, since October 7, we saw this remarkable display of humanity in the encampments, in just the most courageous activism that we've seen in this country, certainly on the issue of Palestine. So I always like to remind students that when you guys are older, your children and grandchildren are going to look at you with great pride, because you will have that great sense of satisfaction when Palestine is free, that you made an enormous contribution and paid a heavy price. As we're seeing across the country, students are paying an enormously heavy price for their stance, and they are not giving up, and they are not backing down. We see this, all across the country. So my hat's off to you, and you should be very, very proud of the work that you do. This is precisely, I think, the most important work that's being done in this country right now for Palestine. I also want to mention that today is Palestine Prisoners' Day. Prisoners' Day is commemorated in Palestine and around the world by Palestinians. And just to really point out the centrality of the prisoners issue. I don't know if you've heard this, but they say Palestinians are the most incarcerated people in the world, but not for crimes, for standing up against crimes. Palestinians are imprisoned for standing up against the crime of apartheid. They are imprisoned because they stand, and by the way, we're seeing this in this country now too, they're standing up against the criminals that are committing genocide and maintaining this brutal apartheid regime in Palestine for almost 8 decades. And so today I believe there are close to 20,000 20,000 Palestinians languishing in the most horrific conditions. I've had the great honor to have many, many Palestinian friends, and of course all of them had spent time in prison because that's the fate of Palestinians. And the conditions have always been horrifying, but now, since October 7th, particularly now, since they've got this gangster, racist criminal in charge of the prisons, the Minister of National Security in the apartheid state, and the prisoners are describing the experience as being in a mass grave of living people. It's a grave where people are alive, but when you see the images of these people coming out, even after relatively short terms, they're not recognizable. I see these pictures of friends of mine coming out, and I can't believe that it's them. So today is the day that, I just wanted to mention that today is the day that, we remember the prisoners and their enormous sacrifice and the enormously important work that they do in standing up, and to remember that we're not talking about people incarcerated for committing a crime. They're incarcerated because they're standing up against a crime, and they're being incarcerated by criminals. That's the reality that exists in Palestine, and sadly, like I said, it's also becoming a reality here in this country. So the question you did ask me was talk a little bit about myself. The story of my life is having grown up in this very patriotic Zionist family, in a very, very Zionist patriotic environment. So not only being raised and educated in the sphere of the oppressor, the sphere of the occupier, but in a more particularly patriotic sphere where actually members of my family and members of my extended family were all held very important positions in establishing the apartheid regime in Palestine and then running it for the first few decades. And perhaps most notably was my father, who served in the Israeli military and was a general in the Israeli army. That's why the title of the book is The General's Son. And so stepping from realizing, so embarking on this journey, again, it's a subtitle of the book, Journey of an Israeli in Palestine, stepping out of that sphere of the oppressor, realizing that I wasn't born and raised in a country called Israel. I was born and raised in a country called Palestine that has been controlled by an apartheid state that gave itself the name Israel and pretended like they had some kind of a historical right and so on to the land of Palestine, which of course we know is not true. So that's in short, that's really the journey. And my good fortune was that having made this journey, I was able to connect with Palestinians both in this country and of course in Palestine itself. And anybody who knows anything about Palestinians knows that the generosity of spirit and the tolerance of Palestinians are unmatched. And it was thanks to that I was able to make that transition without losing my mind, because when you discover one day that everything you know to be true is actually not, and that things that you thought were glorious and heroic were actually horrific crimes, that's a pretty difficult place to be. But again, thanks to the generosity and the tolerance and the patience of the Palestinians that were around me at the time, I was able to make the transition and then make the choice, because I was faced with the choice. Do I maintain my loyalty to this reality that I was born into, or do I shift and reject it because it's wrong and then stand with my Palestinian brothers and sisters? And that was the choice that I made, and I'm very happy, of course, that I made that choice. And the journey continues. I mean, it never really ends. Once you embark on a journey like that, it never really ends. So that's in short the story.
And your father, didn't he change a bit towards the end of his life and his views on things? I think in your book it mentioned
So
that.
yeah, my father was an interesting character. He passed away in 1995, and so he was from that generation who were young officers in 1948. And the Zionists, in the Zionist mythology, that generation, they're considered they call them the silver platter upon which the land of Israel was given, quote unquote, back to the Jewish people. And so they were larger than life. And then he remained in the military. And in the 1960s, and particularly in 1967, he was one of the generals who were the architects and then the executors of the 1967 assault by the apartheid state against its Arab neighbors, what's known as the 1967 war. Again, I reject the notion that this was some kind of a war, because it was really a brutal assault by the Israeli military against the countries that surround Palestine. But what he did was, at the end of the war, the 5th day of the war was really the last day of the war. It wasn't a 6-day war, it's actually a 5-day war. They use the reference 6 days because in the context of Jewish scripture and the Bible, 6 days reminds people of the miracle of creation, and they wanted people to think that there was some kind of a miracle there. And so they called it the 6-day war. But on the last day of the war, in the first meeting of the Israeli High Command at the end of the war, he stood up and he said, well, now we have an opportunity to make peace with our neighbors and resolve the issue of the Palestinian people by allowing them to establish their own state in these 2 regions called the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. So that was really when this idea of the 2-state solution as we know it today was born. And from that moment on, he retired from the military a year later, but from that moment on, he dedicated his life to that, because he felt that that was the most important thing for the state, for the Zionist state. If they wanted a Zionist state to maintain itself, then they had to compromise and make peace, albeit by allowing the Palestinians independence on a fraction of their own homeland, and by this legitimizing the crimes of 1948. But even for suggesting that Palestinians have a right to a small fraction of their own land, he was ostracized, and he was called a traitor, and he was completely shunned. And he dedicated the rest of his life to that. At the same time, as he was doing that, coming from a very respectable place within the establishment, the rest of the Zionist establishment did everything they possibly could to make sure that that would never happen, that this idea of a Palestinian state would never happen. And in fact, while the guns were still smoking, the very, very end of that assault in 1967, they were already displacing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. They were already demolishing and destroying neighborhoods and towns and cities and villages throughout East Jerusalem and the newly occupied then, what's called the West Bank. So in other words, it was happening immediately at the end of that in 1967. And of course, by the time he passed away in 1995, like I said, there was this thing called the Oslo Agreement, which some of you might have heard of, and so on, which were attempts to strengthen the Zionist hold on Palestinian land and on the Palestinian people through some kind of a pretend solution, which was, as we know, is called the Oslo Accords. But that was his trajectory. But the reason I think it's important for people to know this is because when people talk about this idea of a 2-state solution, it's important to remember that this is a Zionist construct. This is a Zionist idea. This is not an idea that comes from a place of thinking about what is just or right or that sort of thing for the Palestinians. It's in order to legitimize the crimes of 1948, the crimes that began in 1948, and then pretend like, well, actually, the Zionists are not so bad. They do care about the Palestinians a little bit, and they do want peace, which, of course, we know is a lie. So, yeah, that was the second part of his life was dedicated to trying to bring about that sort of a peace.
what is your hope for Palestinians and Israelis, and what's the possible solution, inshallah, that you see?
Well, the initial platform of the Palestinian people, of the Palestinian representatives of the Palestinian people going back decades, was to create a free democratic Palestine on all of historic Palestine with equal rights. And so this is a Palestinian idea that's been around for, like I said, many decades. And it was true then, and it is true today. When we look at Palestine today, we are faced with two options. One is what we see today, which is the ongoing genocide and this very vicious form of an apartheid regime. And as we well know, certainly the Western countries support it, and many others support it as well, very, very sadly. And the other option is to struggle for this notion, this plan, which is again a Palestinian plan, to bring down the apartheid state and replace it with a free democratic Palestine with equal rights for everyone. So I think, it's a question of values. Do we support genocide and apartheid, or do we support democracy and human rights and justice? These are the two options, and it's really not a political question or a religious question, it's a values question. Some people think it's okay to bomb a hospital and kill children. You can't argue with that. If that's what people believe, then it's a question of values. I reject that. I think everybody here rejects that notion. So the difference between us is not a political one, it's a values one. But I don't think there's any question that the initial Palestinian goal of establishing a free democratic Palestine with equal rights is really the one that we should all be fighting for, and I believe that it's inevitable. I don't believe that the apartheid state has a future. I don't think anybody does. At the same time, they still have the firepower and the ability to kill and destroy. So that is, in my view, where we should all be heading, and that's what we should all be talking about, and that's what we should all be fighting for.
There are a couple ideas going around. One, Project Palestine. It's a military enforced intervention involving the Hague countries to ensure international law is being followed. You kind of spoke a little bit about this just now. What are your thoughts on that and that type of sustainability of a more like forceful intervention?
I don't believe anyone is willing to put forward the kind of resources that will demand. What we saw since October 7, we saw the Yemeni forces courageously standing up and trying to do what they can to jeopardize the apartheid and to stop the genocide, and they've paid a heavy price, and they continue to pay a very heavy price. We saw forces from southern Lebanon do the same thing, and both of them were able to cause a great deal of damage, a great deal of harm to the apartheid state, to the point where to this day, the settlements in northern Palestine have still not recovered, and people have still not gone back. And in the south, as a result of the Yemeni efforts, the port of Eilat, which is an incredibly important port, has all but shut down. Nothing comes through. So they've been very, very effective. But I don't see anybody else coming in and or showing the kind of willingness it takes to make those kinds of sacrifices. I think these are two unique cases. And I don't think anybody's going to join them, even though we have heard of the Hague, this new alliance and so forth. I believe very strongly, though, that we need to, again, going back to the demands of students on campuses, divestment, sanctions, making sure that the apartheid state cannot participate in the Olympics, cannot participate in any kind of international forums, be they sporting forums, cultural, academic, and so forth. They should be shunned completely. And if we look historically, those are the kinds of actions that actually that are able to bring down regimes like the apartheid state. And so when people talk about boycott, they very often think, well, we need to go to Trader Joe's and make sure that they don't sell Israeli, I don't know, avocados or whatever, which is important. But the real boycott happens when their representatives can no longer participate in international forums, where their embassies, the diplomatic missions are closed down. Again, when they're not permitted to participate in the Olympics and so forth. I don't know if you remember this, but in the Olympics, the last Olympics in Tokyo, there was the case of a very brave young Algerian judo practitioner. And you can imagine how hard an athlete works in order to make it to the Olympics. And when he was called up, Fathi Nourin, his name was Fathi Nourin from Algeria. And when he was called up to compete against a member of the apartheid team, he said no. Now, he was kicked out of the Olympics, and he was kicked out of the International Judo Federation, so he can no longer compete. His career was over. And of course, he was received back in Algeria, he received the hero's welcome. However, it should not be up to a single young athlete to stand up. The International Olympic Committee should not allow the apartheid state to participate. That's boycott. When we have, we see war criminals from the apartheid state on college campuses speaking, coming in for, sabbaticals and so forth, that should not be permitted. And so on and so forth. So if we're serious about boycott, that's the kind of boycott. What the students were doing, what the encampments were demanding on campuses in terms of divestment, that's the divestment. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars. And again, sanctions. There should be severe sanctions against the apartheid state. This should have happened a long time ago, but certainly since October 7th, when we saw this insane slaughter of civilians in Gaza, that should have been, you'd think it would be obvious. So I believe that those are the more effective ways to bring it down.
So I have it's like a two-parter, and then if anyone on the stage, by the way, after this, in about 10, 15 minutes, we're gonna take questions from the audience, so that's exciting. One, a lot of people ask, what can I do to help make a difference? And then can you also tell us a little bit about your nonprofit that you formed in DC?
So what people can do, I think, especially if we're sitting here on a college campus, is support the activism on campuses, support the students. If you're a student, then continue this incredible work and try to enlarge the group of students that participate in this as much as possible. Now, having said that, I have to say that it's a heavy price to pay. Students are paying with their career, they're paying with their future. So it's not an easy ask. And I hear students coming up to me and saying, well, my parents don't want me to do this, what should I do? And from the other end, I hear parents coming up to me and saying, tell my daughter not to do this anymore. She's ruining her career and so on. Well, you can't tell activists not to do what they do. It's in your blood, it's in your bones. It's not something you can not do. Now, it's a big ask because we've seen the consequences that students are paying across campuses across the country. At the same time, this is the right struggle. This is what needs to happen. And if we participate in a struggle like this, then, and I think any serious activist will tell you this, we expect to pay a price. When Palestinians stand up in Gaza, when they march towards the fence as they did during the Great March of Return, when they do what they did, they know they're going to pay a price. And I have these conversations, I've had these conversations for years with my Palestinians brothers and sisters who are activists, who are on the front lines. They know they're going to pay a price. They know they will be arrested and tortured or killed. They know their children are going to be arrested, tortured, and killed. People in Gaza, everybody's shocked by the level of violence, but this is what people know. Here in this country, we don't pay that kind of a price. But I think this is the right struggle, this is the right fight. And so I would say, if you're on campus, if you're nearby a campus, support the student activism, make sure it grows, make sure it continues, make sure that the powers that try to silence students do not win, make sure that students have the kind of support they need from the community so that they can continue. This is incredibly important, I believe. Now, in terms of the organization that we founded in Washington, D.C., Palestine House of Freedom, we set out to accomplish several things. First of all, I live in Washington, D.C., and one of the things that I noticed for years now is the abundance of international missions, diplomatic missions, cultural missions, and they all fly their flags. And there's no Palestinian flag. There's no Palestinian entity that displays the flag and displays the name. And in a place like Washington, D.C., where symbolism is everything, if you're not there, you don't exist. And this was done by design. There's a reason why, there was no Palestinian flag. So we set out to do that, to open a place that's high profile. So we're on Capitol Hill to display the Palestinian flag, to put the name Palestine House of Freedom, and we're just a few blocks, we're walking distance from the Capitol. So that's very gratifying. We accomplished that. Our mission as a nonprofit is education. We're a 501c3, we're not a 501c4, we're not a lobbying group. But education is, and I believe you mentioned this too, education is the key. Americans receive, and you all alluded to that as well, the education Americans receive is a Zionist education. When it's in school, it's in college, it's in the faith communities, in culture, in philanthropy, in any area of life you can imagine, Zionism is there. So when we come up one day and we say, well, you need to impose sanctions on the state that calls itself a Jewish state, well, of course they think we're anti-Semitic. How could you possibly say this? Having come from that kind of education, that's the conclusion, that's the logical conclusion. We need to find a way to overcome that. We need to educate to a point where people realize not only that genocide is wrong, not only that apartheid is wrong, but that it's taking place in Palestine. That, and again, it seems basics to people sitting in this room probably, but that there is a Palestine, that there was a Palestine, and that there will forever be a Palestine, like in the Mahmoud Darwish poem. So people don't know that there was a Palestine. When people talk about the history, they talk about 1948 or the Bible. It's all within the context of the Zionist paradigm. We need to break through that. So we do that. When we say education, we mean a very robust kind of education, the most robust iteration of the term. And so we have speakers, we have events, we use social media, and so on and so forth. I won't get into all the details, but that's basically our mission. We're planning curriculum and that sort of thing to bring about really this understanding, and to do this quickly as possible too, that number one, an understanding of Palestine, and number two, that a peaceful, democratic, stable Palestine is just beyond the apartheid wall. In other words, we can accomplish it. And particularly politicians like to talk about stable, democratic, all these terms. Well, of course, you can have that, but you can't have that as long as there's an apartheid regime. You can't have that as long as genocide is the agenda of the day, of the regime that controls the country. So yes, everybody wants a free, stable, democratic Palestine. How do you get from here to there? You need to dismantle the apartheid state. And we've seen racist and apartheid and dictatorial regimes and fascist regimes fall. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We know how to do it. And again, the boycott, the sanctions, and so forth, the divestment, these are the basic tools that we've seen work in the past. And so that's really our mission, is to get to the point where people have a good grasp of that, and then, of course, act to achieve it. Do everything they can. And and some of us are old enough to remember what it was like with apartheid South Africa. One day, this country supported racist systemic racist in South Africa. There was no problem with apartheid. The day after, you could not support racism in South Africa anymore. You could not. It was over across the board. It was bipartisan. It was everybody. Even if you were a racist, you couldn't say that you supported apartheid in South Africa. That's the kind of sweeping change that we want to see here in this country. So it's not about a particular, for us, as the work that we do, is not about a particular bill or a particular candidate, because again, we're a 501c3. It's about creating this environment where this change is sweeping, where there is no tolerance for apartheid, for Zionism anywhere. As many of you know, every campus, I don't know if this campus does, but almost every campus in this country has a Zionist entity, has the whatever the mascot is for Israel, has a Hillel house. I don't know if there's a Hillel house here on the campus. I don't know if there is one. Well, you would have known. You know, these are we're permitting Zionism. We're tolerating racism on campus. So if campuses are serious about having zero tolerance to racism and zero tolerance to violence, why are they allowing Zionist entities to exist within their campuses? So that's the kind of sweeping change. And I say this on campuses everywhere, you know, and all the big campuses, have these. And so this is the kind of sweeping change that we're looking for. We need to do it quickly. We're still trying to figure out and work on the strategy to get there, because right now it seems like an insane idea that one day Zionism would have no place in this country. But I truly believe that we can do it. I truly believe that we can do it. And again, going back to what Palestinians are doing in Palestine and what students are doing on campuses in this country, there's no question that there's enough courage and there's enough intellect to get it done.
Not so much a question, brother, but just more of a statement to you. You are an inspiration to not only me, but I speak for our community when I say that we truly love you. And I know that the sacrifices our Jewish allies make a lot of times involves family relationships, which is something that Palestinians don't have to sacrifice. I just want to say that we all look at you as family, and you may have felt that you've lost family relationships, but you've gained so many new ones, and we're blessed to have you part of this movement.
I want to ask you about the something related to what's going on inside what's so-called State of Israel, because nobody here, probably not me, not anybody, probably know as much as you are about the fabric of the society there. So we do know that there is the sentiment of anti-Netanyahu especially have risen since they realized he keep putting obstacles, impossible demands for permanent ceasefire. And many people realizing it now in Israel that it became an obstacle. Now, we do know there is demonstrations, we do know there is disturbance in there against the ministers and against him himself, and sometimes it gets ugly and violent in the street. Where do you see the turning point in the Israeli society that will change that system and move away from radicalism and far-right government and admit that these people that's next door in the West Bank and Gaza deserve to live just as much or more even on this land than them? Actually, it is more, because they are, after all, the native of that land. So when do you see that turning around? How it will come about, this turning point in the society?
Well, the short answer is that racist societies, racist privileged societies, only change when they're brought down to their knees. When they are hit so hard that they cannot travel, that they have no diplomatic missions, they cannot participate in international forums, that the apartheid regime is done. That's when they'll change. That's the only time that racist societies change. They never change from within. Now, Israeli society is not really a society. There's no such thing as Israeli society. It's a bunch of different groups that were tied together with Scotch tape. That's all it is. And there's always been divisions and friction between these different groups. And very, very little tolerance and very, very little work that was done together. And the one thing that kept them together is the issue of Zionism and the land and so forth. It doesn't matter if Netanyahu disappeared tomorrow and there was a different prime minister, it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever, because the support for the genocide is absolute, almost absolute. The protests that we're seeing are over who gets to sit in the chair, not the policy. Israel, this so-called society, Israeli society, the Israeli political world, is divided. About 55% are with this government, and about 45% hate their guts. But they hate their guts because they hate their guts, because of what it means to them in their little racist reality. It's not about the Palestinians. You know, I mean, when we look historically, the Nakba of 1948 was conducted by a very liberal, socialist, Zionist government, as were, many, and since then for decades. So it's not about that. Israeli society, just like racist societies everywhere, they will change when they are forced to change, when they've lost completely, when they're defeated. When Zionism is defeated, Israelis will wake up the next day. There will be a Palestinian prime minister. There will be a free Palestine. Their kids will go to school with Palestinian kids. Palestinians will be free. Palestinian refugees will be able to return. And the sky is not going to fall. People are still going to get up in the morning, send their kids to school, and go to work. That kind of realization can only happen once they are done. And that's exactly, by the way, what happened with South Africa. Whites in South Africa didn't one day decide, well, we need to change. No. They couldn't travel. They couldn't sell. They couldn't buy. They couldn't participate in anything. And that's it. They woke up one day and they had no choice. That's when Israeli society will, and I don't know if they'll change, but they will have to adjust to the new reality. So that's really the only way to get that and to provide the kind of freedom and safety and security for Palestinians, which of course doesn't exist. Safety and security for Palestinians is not even part of the conversation, of course not within Israeli society, but not even outside. You can kill, the current minister of national security, who has turned the prisons, which were hell already, to these, mass graves of the living. And this is, I'm using terms that were said to me by Palestinian friends of mine. That same man has been giving out 200,000 licenses for weapons to citizens since he took office. 200,000 more, because Israelis carry weapons all the time anyway. 200,000 more licenses and absolute and complete freedom to kill Palestinians at will, at any point, at any time, not only in the West Bank, not only in Gaza, everywhere throughout all of Palestine. I mean, there's really no West Bank anymore. It's just ghettos of Palestinians surrounded by Israeli settlements. So this is the atmosphere right now, and it's going to change when it all changes.
Ask you. The other question is, now we all know it's a fact, it's undebatable fact that any occupied nation has every right to defend itself by all means necessary as part of the international law. And that is undisputable. Well, yet they are still disputed because they claim the Palestinians are not the indigenous, rather they are the indigenous. Now that's narrative easily debunked, obviously, but people, unfortunately, they keep reciting the same lines of basically propaganda to the American public, to the European public, to convince them that they do belong there, and make them think that the Palestinian goal is to eliminate every single Jew. That's what they make them think. although by all means they don't represent Judaism, not the faith itself, because they are, we all know, it's a cult. It's like a cult ideology. The problem with that, countering that narrative, obviously the media is still in this country, especially in their support, and they keep propagating and repeating that narrative and feeding it to the American public. Now, in order for us to end the aid and the flow of money and weapon that's going to Israel, that narrative has to change here, partly by educating the public. But since the beginning of October 7th, since October 7th until now, millions came out in protest. Yet the American government irresponsive, rather it became hostile, and becoming more hostile by day and even by administration. So what is ultimately is going to force, in your opinion, the American government to have to face the reality and the choice between continue to feed the apartheid machine and its war machine on the behest of America, or vice versa, or do the other right choice, which is give up that support, even if it is not for the right reasons, rather at least for economic reasons, because we know how much of a toll supporting such war machine to Israel takes on the American economy. So what else beyond protesting, beyond what kind of activism does it need to be escalated to the next level? Not by violence, by all means, but for instance, do you support something like massive civil disobedience across the country?
I think I agree with everything you said, of course, and so it's just going to take more of what we do. As much as people who are involved are giving it all they've got, it's obviously not enough. We have not made a dent in the genocide. And we saw, there was this hope that there could be a ceasefire. And that kind of goes back to your previous question. We hoped that there could be a ceasefire. And there were all these demands for ceasefire. And when this was going on, I said something that was very difficult for people to hear, which is that ceasefire is irrelevant. In World War II, nobody tried to get a ceasefire from the Nazis. The Nazi regime had to go. You can't, it's absurd to ask for a ceasefire when we're talking about a genocide. Ceasefire is appropriate maybe when there's, two armies fighting, that sort of thing. In a genocide, you need to end the genocide. And we've not even made a dent. And during that short period where there was the so-called ceasefire, who did it benefit? We saw these images of Palestinians in Gaza getting a little bit more food, a few more trucks getting in. They were starting to build. The mood was kind of a little bit optimistic. And I think this created a sense of hope, a very false hope. And then when it ended, and the way it ended, the brutality, everybody was shocked. And so people are feeling despair and people are feeling hopeless. But I think we need to go into this with realistic expectations. A ceasefire will benefit only one side. It helped the genocidal regime rest, arm itself, create the sense that they care. It was good for their PR. For Palestinians, it was a sense of false hope for a very short time, and then boom, we saw this, this horrendous monstrosity continue. And so I think it's important for us to realize we need to do a lot more of what we're doing, and we can't do it alone. We need to expand. It has to grow. More and more people have to be involved. There's a genocide going on, and this is also a sense of helplessness that we have. There's a genocide going on, and we're not making a dent. There's a genocide, and everybody can see it. And maybe even the word genocide has just kind of become meaningless suddenly, because genocide, think about it. And this expectation that maybe the regime that is conducting the genocide will allow trucks of aid to enter from a third country, from Egypt. Are we crazy? We're expecting that the regime that is conducting the genocide will allow aid, humanitarian aid? So they allow a little bit, and they say, look, we're allowing it. Why do Palestinians need humanitarian aid? Palestine is a rich country. You have all the resources right there. What they need is to be liberated from this Gaza concentration camp so they can get everything. Everything is there. There's water. What, you know this, 5 minutes from the fence that encloses the Gaza concentration camp, there's all the water, all the food, all the medical care, everything. Not to mention their land is there, their water is there, their resources are there. The people from the 2 million people who live in the concentration camp, they came from just outside the camp, this concentration camp. So the fight needs to be for liberation. For liberation. The Gaza concentration camp has to be liberated so people can come and go as they please. They can go back and, because all the resources are there. So at one point, there was this attempt to drop aid from the air, to bring aid through Rafah for thousands of trucks with millions and millions of dollars worth of humanitarian aid, rotting, of course, and expecting the genocidal regime to allow it to enter. Children are dying from dehydration in Palestine, a country that is rich with water. Starvation in Palestine, a country that is rich with food. Children dying from infections because they don't have access to most simple basic medical care. And it's right there. They don't need the trucks with aid. They need to be liberated. Every effort has to be made. Every time we talk, every time we protest, every time we speak up, every waking moment we need to say liberation. It's not about aid. Palestinians are not beggars. It's their country. They need to be liberated. They need to be free. The resources are all there. Dehydration and starvation in Palestine? It's insane. So that's why I said ceasefire is not what we need. More humanitarian aid is what we need. Liberation 100% in every effort, every dollar, every word that we speak has to be focused on that. To end it forever. There should be no legitimacy given. No legitimacy given to the apartheid state. None. Liberation should be unconditional, not negotiated. The freedom of the prisoners should be unconditional, not negotiated. The crime of genocide, the crime of apartheid, the crime of incarcerating these brave people and Palestinians in jail is a crime that needs to stop. Unconditional, not negotiated. Unconditional. The crime must stop, first and foremost. That's what is needed. So I would say to all of us that are out there protesting and speaking and writing and whatever activism we're involved in, make it grow and make sure we're focused. Not to get distracted with nonsense like ceasefire and humanitarian aid. Not that it's not important. But you're dealing with an enemy that doesn't care. You're dealing with an enemy that lies, and there's a history. Since the armistice agreements in 1949, they violated every agreement ever that they ever signed. So not to be duped into this false hope, this kind of Bernie Sanders kind of two-state solution hope. No. It has to be, it's ridiculous to call it radical because we're talking about liberation and democracy and freedom, but this more radical approach that it's got to end and forever. Forever. There should never be a hungry child in Palestine. There's no reason for it. That, I believe, is the approach that's going to get us to where we need to go.
And I just wanted to say real quick before we jump into questions, thank you so much, Miko, Rafid, Lisa, and Pali. All your words are very powerful, very insightful, and I'm sure has moved the hearts of many here, mine included. So thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the insights that you shared today. Really honored to be listening to such a great conversation. Obviously, super interested in kind of the point where we left off just now, Miko, with your comments. Wholeheartedly agree with everything that you're saying. And I'm curious, this is kind of like your call to action for the protest movement, one that I've been heavily involved in at Columbia University and in other campuses across the country. A lot of students feel hopeless right now, to be honest. Today is the 1-year anniversary of when the Columbia encampment went up. And a lot of students are on social media saying, like, things are even worse now than they were 1 year ago, And this is also on the heels of the news yesterday that apparently Trump defied Israel wanting to go to war with Iran and doing all these strikes and stuff like that. But in a lot of ways, it's like we're dismantling our top universities for Israel. We're dismantling our budgets for Israel. We're literally robbing Americans of our basic rights so that we can prioritize the people of Israel. What do you think is going to be that moment that kind of breaks the hypnosis? Because, this is the first time also that we're seeing the right and the left almost unite on this whole America first concept, that it's why are we prioritizing this foreign country over our own? But so many people are still making Israel and America synonymous with each other, which obviously is disrupted by a lot of our Jewish brothers and sisters like yourself. So I'm curious, what you think is going to be that breaking point, and if you have any references or historical examples even that can inspire some of us that are kind of also feeling a little bit less than hopeful right now.
Let me tell you a story. We just had a guest at Palestine House of Freedom from several guests actually from Palestine. And one of them, Anas Abu Sroor from Aida camp near Bethlehem. And he was just recently released from 9 months in that, mass grave. And he looked at me, I picked him up from the airport and we're sitting there talking, and he looked at me and he said, "Why do you look so tired and kind of sad and you're feeling despair? I can tell by we've known each other for a long time." And then he's describing his experience 9 months in hell. I mean, he was just picked up and thrown in that thing. He didn't know why, how long, the beating, the torture, the dogs. I mean, the stories are horrifying. And he's looking at me and he says, why do you look so tired and despair? I think that two things. One, we can't really afford to feel hopeless because, look at us. We're rich, free, and alive, and we have all the resources. Number two, we need to see, kind of the cup half full thing. The reason they're coming after students, the reason they're coming after the universities, the reason they have really they've gone completely mad with all these restrictions is because they know they're losing. They know it's falling apart. They are terrified. They're hysterical. What we've seen over the last few months is a sign that they are hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. So when you go into this kind of a struggle, we have to expect that there are going to be, some defeats. They've got a lot more power, they've got a lot more money, but we are winning. There's no question. And the reason they are hysterical and the reason they're using all these draconian measures is because they're terrified. And every argument they have has been refuted. Every claim they made about the rights to the land and all that, it's all being refuted. And the level of conversation, like I said earlier, again, thanks to students on campuses, has dramatically shifted on Palestine, more than anybody could have anticipated. So what exactly is going to be the thing? We don't know. It's like, 1,000 paper cuts. At the end, it's going to collapse. And everything we do counts, and everything we do is important. We just need to do more of it. And we get up in the morning, and certainly we see the news, and it's horrifying. And we know, and we have to come to this very difficult realization, we cannot save a child in Gaza today. We cannot. We cannot free the prisoners from these dungeons of torture. We cannot, not today. but we have to focus on the fact that we need to end it and forever. And we're not going to stop, and we're not going to compromise, and we're not going to negotiate. And that's exactly the sentiment that was on all the in the encampments. And I've been to so many of them, these liberated zones on campuses. And I know that there are people that would go to the students and say, well, why are you so extreme? Don't say free Palestine. Don't say river to the sea. And they said it anyway. Don't demand so much. No. And that's why I think they're succeeding, and that's why I think people are so scared of them. Because they know exactly what to demand, which is divestment. They're demanding a free Palestine on all of historic Palestine. They're rejecting this whole two-state solution, legitimizing a part of the apartheid state and all that nonsense. And you guys are young and promising and brilliant. That is very scary. And that's why we're seeing these draconian measures. So I would say the fact that they're coming after you, the fact they're coming after all of us, is a sign for us to do more, not to do less. To take that courage, and I don't know that I would have the kind of courage that's being displayed by you guys on campuses, but to take that courage and multiply it and do more, because this is a sign that they're terrified and they're losing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everybody who set this up, and thanks for everybody who's here right now. And thank you, Miko, for coming here when we're not only experiencing a genocide of the Palestinians, but a dehumanization of our collective soul. So you being here with us is helping us be more human, because the most human thing that we can do is resist this injustice and stand in solidarity with our Palestinian brothers and sisters. And I feel like in this opportunity where we do have kind of a small space that is filled with students and activists and organizers and community members, perhaps you can teach us more about strategy. And I think that we can learn a lot from Palestinians themselves. And I'm wondering if you have stories, experiences, observations that you can share from what Palestinians have taught you. How do they strategize? How do they organize? How do they communicate? How do they find strength within genocide to continue? Because if they can do it, we can do it. And I wonder if you can help us learn how we can do that. Thanks.
Well, in short, I think the two things that I've learned, and anybody who's been involved with the Palestine struggle or has been to Palestine, is, again, to quote Mahmoud Darwish, this incurable hope that Palestinians have. It's an incurable hope, regardless of what may be the reality. They're out there and fighting with everything they've got. And the other thing is this unbelievable courage. What we've seen Palestinians do, not only on October 7th, but I mean throughout, the last 80 years, the courage displayed by Palestinians is beyond remarkable. And so those are two things that's where I get my inspiration, from that. In terms of strategy, I think it's important to be honest and note that there has never been a winning strategy. There has never been a strategy to free Palestine. There have been attempts, there have been ideas, there have been ideologies, there have been, different groups trying different things, but there's never been a clear strategy that says, here's how we go from here to there. And that's what we're trying to do. And one of the things that we're doing at Palestine House of Freedom right now in DC with all the other groups there are a lot of groups, wonderful groups that do great work, and individuals in Washington and around the country, is to do just that, to stop for a minute and say, okay, you're doing this, and everybody's doing important work. We need to create a strategy so that tomorrow somebody else can do this work and that we all know where we're going. So to be honest, I think that is the weakness. Whereas the other side has always had a very clear strategy, and they knew exactly where they were going. And every step they took led to the next step, which led us to where we are today, which is they are conducting a genocide and people are supporting it. And so that is, I think, the missing link. And I think the various reasons why I think that hasn't happened yet. It's not a I'm not blaming. This is not a blame at all. But it's something that we're realizing today that needs to be done. And we who are living in this space that is outside of the genocide, we have the ability to get together. We have the ability to do this. You know, to try to get somebody from Hebron to Jerusalem for a meeting is impossible. It's a, 45-minute drive, right? It's impossible. They can't do it. They just think about it, they'll be arrested either by the Palestinian Authority or by the Israeli Authority or by some other authority. Just for thinking about going to another city to meet with somebody or to strategize. So there are some severe limitations on that, but we here can do it. And we are in touch. And, you know, on our, if you go to our website, we have a list of, you know, where we're constantly in touch with the leaders of the grassroots organizers and activists in Palestine. They're the backbone. You know, we work for them. So we can do that. We have the advantage that we can still do that. But I would say hope and courage, you know, look at Palestine, that's what you see. You see it everywhere. And generosity, I would say. Just, you know, generosity of heart that is unbelievable.
Thank you. I have someone that is on live that's watching this that has questions for you. Vengeful, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I want to say first, thank you. And everything you're doing is really important. Appreciate it. And I also think that everything you're saying about steps to take are something we all should be doing. But I do have to ask you a question. But first, I do have to say I disagree that this is similar to South Africa. We have never seen anything like this before. The closest would probably be, you know, World War II. South Africa is definitely an apartheid like Palestine is, but they were not going through anything close to this. And I do not think these methods in the end, as we've seen for the last 100 years and the last 18 plus months, are enough. So my question is, when is it okay to be able to speak about what is internationally, by international law, something that's okay, armed resistance? When is it okay to speak about doing what was done to the Nazis in World War II, and actually taking action to stop this and save Palestine and stop the Zionist regime? When is it okay to speak about the elephant in the room, that the only way to stop a colonizer and occupier is by the force they use?
Is by what? I didn't hear that last part.
By the force they use.
What?
By the force they use. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want to ask a question too?
No.
Yeah, I got that. Okay.
Did you have any more questions?
Can you answer that?
He wants you to answer, and then he might have another question.
Well, maybe
But we're
one
gonna
question
pass,
is enough because
okay.
there's a lot of people here. So
Okay.
one question.
So one
and
question,
I'll answer.
Vengeful.
Let's get a few more questions and then we'll answer them together.
Okay, so go ahead.
Thank you so much. You're a huge inspiration. I'm an online creator who spends all of her time trying to awaken primarily white Americans up to these issues. As someone who grew up in New Jersey, it wasn't until October 8th that I realized that every single Jewish person that I've known my entire life was a Zionist. I did not know that. And I've come across a lot of people who didn't know that. So as a result, as you pointed out, you know, I've lost lots of family members, lots of friends. My ex-brother-in-law is the general counsel of the ADL. So, so this has caused a big rift. And I try to help other people who are finding their voice to speak up and speak out against the apartheid regime and the genocide, to find that samud, to find that reclaiming of their humanity so that we don't continue to pay for this genocide at the very least. And in your work, I would love to hear about how you deal with especially Westerners, those of us living in the belly of the beast, especially people who are of the Jewish faith, who are also understanding and hearing for the first time about the Nakba and about Palestine and these things. And are there sort of points of entry that you've found in your education that help other people like us kind of make cracks in the consciousness? Thank you.
Yes, one more, yeah.
I was wondering what experience you or your organization have with other social movements outside of the Palestine movement. Right now we have the mobilization against ICE and deportations and the mistreatment of migrants. We have a growing militancy in the labor movement, but the labor leadership in the US isn't always exactly on point with the Palestine movement. The UAW supported a ceasefire, but Sean Fain is tacitly putting an American first idea right now, agreeing with Trump on tariffs a bit. Sean O'Brien's kind of a mess. And a big example I always have is the dock workers last year. They went on strike, but they let military equipment go through the ports. So my question would be, what experience do you have with these organizations or other social movements, and in what ways can we unite different movements with Palestine to work together to see a,
Yeah, that's a great point.
all of us.
As a matter of fact, we are all working together. I mean, for the most part, whether it's unions, whether it's other groups that other groups that are disenfranchised or work for the different social movements for other causes, we are all working together because we're all fighting for the same thing. We're all talking about liberation. We're all talking about freedom. We're all talking about real democracy, And so we are all working for the same thing, and we do collaborate and work together actually very, very well. And there's big changes happening within all those other movements coming closer and participating in the struggle to free Palestine. So definitely, yeah. The previous question about, I hear this from a lot of people that, their families or their friends or Jews turned out to be Zionists, and what do you do? Well, what you do is, and that'll answer, I think, the other question here, the guy who's on the phone, you speak the truth. It's just very simple. You tell the truth, and that's it. And if they don't like it, what else is there to do? Like I said, it's a question of values. It's not like, well, I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat, and it's not about that. It's something much deeper. You're either a supremacist, you support supremacy, white supremacy, or whatever kind of supremacy, or you don't. You either support a genocide or you stand up against it. And there's no ifs or buts. And that's the way it is. And, many people tell me that my book is kind of a helpful way to get people to, because of my own story. And if that works, that's great. But I think the most important thing is to tell the truth and to be absolutely clear about what we're talking about. There is no justification, no excuses whatsoever. Nothing on the face of the earth can justify bombing a hospital, period. I don't care if the devil lives in the hospital. You do not bomb a hospital. And that's what separates us from them. Because if they think it's okay to bomb a hospital, then we're done. The conversation is pretty much over, as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead, please.
Hello. My question is, what advice would you give to grassroots organizations, grassroots pro-Palestine organizations to combat wealthy Zionist political donors like PACs and such?
Okay. And let's do one more over here.
Hey, so I'm going to keep my question somewhat short. You say the apartheid state should not be allowed to officially compete in international forums such as the Olympics. Would you be open to allowing a passage for Israeli athletes to compete independently from their country of origin in the Olympics?
Okay. And the last question over there, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
First, I just want to express gratitude for you coming out, Mr. Peled, and to IPAC for being here, and Pali Viking as well. My question is, how do you feel about the rewording of definitions for anti-Semitism by organizations like ADL and the fight that is perpetuated by groups like JVP, the Jewish
I'm sorry, what do you do what with them? What did you say?
How do you feel about the rewording of definitions for Semitism, anti-Semitism by organizations like ADL and the fight that's perpetuated by organizations like JVP, the Jewish Voices for Power?
Yeah. Okay. And maybe the last one over there.
Yeah, so my daughter actually was impacted by the chemical attack on Columbia's campus, and she's been very active there. I guess I'm just really looking forward to reading your book, specifically because of your foreword by Alice Walker. And I just wanted to comment on something that she said and see how you could reflect upon this. She wrote in Search of Our Mother's Garden, she said, she quoted the Gnostic Gospel. And she said, if you bring forth what is inside of you, what is inside of you will save you. If you do not bring forth what is inside of you, what is inside of you will destroy you. And it seems to me that under everything that you're saying here today is that empire in general must fall. And it seems like everyone in this room is already doing that work of extracting the oppressor within. It seems like you have absolutely done that, and I want to commend you for that. But just personally in this community, where are all of the professors? Where are the majority of the students? I saw one professor back here. He was here for a couple minutes, and then he just left. Like, I live in this community. We are part of Monroe County for Collective Liberation. We are doing as much as we can. And how do you keep people accountable when they don't even want to touch their own discomfort and their own fears around rage and all of that? So I'm just wondering if you can comment on that. And again, thank you so much for being here. And I'm sorry we don't have a bigger audience for you.
I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
Yes, grassroots. Do you remember now? Like, what strategies should like grassroots organizations use to like combat like wealthy Zionist political donors?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, a lot of these questions don't really have an answer that can just be expressed like this right now. But these are great questions. I think that I'll just repeat what I said earlier. The only way to combat what we're facing is to tell it like it is. You mentioned the ADL and so forth. The other side has defined and branded everything that has to do with Palestine. So by saying the word Palestine, you're already anti-Semitic. If you say free Palestine or justice, forget it. Now you're. So we just need to. I think we need to be determined to reclaim it. A free Palestine from the river to the sea is the most hopeful, the most optimistic vision that could possibly be. There's nothing more beautiful, more hopeful, more optimistic. And if somebody has a problem with that, I'm sorry, that's the way it is. You know what I mean? So then they bring in, but that means you want to kill all the Jews. And what about, no, nobody said that. Sit down and shut up. It's a hopeful, optimistic vision, and this is where we're going. And if you want to support racism, and if you want to give racism your money, then your kids are going to look at you one day and they're going to ask you, what did you give money to? And why did you give money to racism and violence when you could have been supporting, with that same money, the cause for justice, where you could have been supporting students or other organizations or the struggle to free Palestine and end the genocide? And that is what we got, The other side has a lot of money, has a lot of resources, a lot of connections. We have the truth. We have international law. We know what is actually taking place. And, there are a lot of smart people on our side and caring people, more than enough, to win this. And so I would say again, do not back down. Do not, try to excuse or apologize or anything like that. A free Palestine unapologetically. The end of apartheid unapologetically. No negotiation. There's no compromise. Anybody who's willing to come and participate, they're welcome. Ahlan wa sahlan, they say in Arabic. You're welcome. Everybody's welcome to participate. But anybody who's not willing to participate and march shoulder to shoulder to end the racism and to end the genocide, there's no room for you around the table. That's it. That's the way it's got to be. And we've got to, I think with that attitude, there's nothing that can stop us. All of their money, all of their weapons will not stop Palestine from being free, will not stop Palestine from having this future of being free and democratic all through from the river to the sea. So I want to invite everybody to remember that and to know well and to feel it and smell it and taste it every single day so that we get there finally, because we can definitely do it. Thank you very much.
Let's give it up for Miko Peled. Shout out to TikTok. See you. Shout out to YouTube. Thank you so much, Aya, for hosting this, and iPac, Integrity Political Action Committee, also organized this and brought Miko here. We get to hear Pali Viking in a little bit, so stick around. Thank you so much for being here.
Make some noise for Palestine. We're quiet in here. We're a small crowd, so we got to be 3 times as loud. Let's go. I want to introduce somebody very special to you guys. This is my brother from another. Drew Porter, come on stage. We have some special for you guys today. We're going to be performing 5 songs. My name is Pali Viking. I'm on all social medias. I've been doing this activism stuff for a while now, and I decided to use my rapping talents to mix with this movement and to bring you guys something special. I hope that you guys will take this with you, and we're gonna go through all the motions, guys. So let's get it cracking, guys. Austin, thumbs up. Hold on, we need 2 mics, yeah. We're good. This song I wrote in October of 2023. When I wrote this song, there was 10,000 civilians that were killed. 10,000. I wish that number was that low today.
The West Bank always decides the Israelis. Your baby. Your baby.
Hey, let's go. Pure evil, they're breaking the rules. They're bombing the hospitals, bombing the schools. The media's dirty, they censor the news. Shadow my TikTok, it's too many views. It's Viking, let's take them to school. Anti-Semitic, I'm Semitic too. Seems like that word's a political tool. You use it because you can't handle the truth. K, he a beast, he can handle the booth. Army fatigues, I'm standing in boots. I feel like a soldier commanding the troops. Damned if I don't, I'm damned if I do. They'll kill me or label me one of the two. If they do it to me, they could do it to you.
Organized.
I never seen someone so wicked before. To bomb your whole building, kicking the door, and Biden is sleeping, just giving them more. They're killing the women and children and more. And I turn it up, bro. And it's just a war. 10,000 dead and they're killing some more. So tell me what all of these billions for. Been in zombie land, seen it in person. It's a lot of Americans hurting. My homie told me that his job ain't working, paying enough, so we out back serving. My brother got loans, paying his debt. Foreclosed on your home, they placing their bet. Homeless on dope, Afghanistan vet. And we just a joke cause we cut him a check for billions. This is public knowledge. Quiz, pop quiz. Who can guess who this next sample is at the end of the song? Listen.
The Palestinian struggle is not just a cry for justice. It's a blistering battle for the most fundamental human rights that every living soul on this planet should inherit by birthright. It's an unyielding resistance against the oppressive, suffocating grip of occupation and the callous denial of the most basic human dignity.
Malcolm, raise your hand, sister. She got it right there. Rest in peace. All right, Austin, let's go to the next one. Let's get him, Drew.
Lord, before I lay me down to sleep at night, I keep feeling this feeling I'm feeling inside. Keep living this life like I'm living to die. Yeah. It's free Palestine right now. Free Palestine right now. Free Palestine right now. Free Palestine right now.
Can you turn up the
Free
volume,
Palestine right
Austin?
now. Free Palestine right now. Free Palestine right now. Free Palestine right now.
Yeah, I've been trying to hide how I'm feeling inside. I play it all cool, but it's killing my pride. Last year was a hard one. I lost real friends, lost family too. When will it end? I can only turn to Allah when times get hard. Praying is healing, emotionally scarred. I ask God, will it ever change? I know one thing, I will never be the same. I just pray that my death won't be in vain. I'm too young to be having these chest pains. Yeah, I'm about to spaz out, hanging out the sunroof, masked out. Middle fingers to the whole world, screaming free Palestine as I crash out. Fuck all of these politicians. We screamed loud, but they didn't listen. You were silent while we died. Now stay silent while we ride.
Lord, before I lay me down to sleep at night, keep feeling this feeling I'm feeling inside. Keep living this life like I'm living or die. Yeah. It's free Palestine right now. 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 Free Palestine right now.
Right now, yeah. Lately, it's been hard to sleep at night. Please forgive my enemies, cause it's on sight. I've been having visions of a different life. Just watch over me, I'm not living right. I know we can make it, I can see the light. All my life, I had to fight. Now it's time to make it right. We gon' free Palestine, we gon' catch a flight. I don't know DJ Khaled, but I know Reem and Khaled. Yeah, just imagine both of them laughing. No more pain, no more misery. Now to finally, now to finally free Palestine is what we screaming as we running out of time. How can the world see if they gone blind? I thought Rafa was supposed to be the red line. God, answer this one time. Lately I just need a sign. God, can you answer this prayer for me one time? I'm going out my mind, I need a sign. Free Palestine.
Lord, before I lay me down to sleep at night, keep feeling this feeling I'm feeling inside. Keep living this life like I'm living or die.
Let's go, crowd. I need to hear everyone. Let's go.
It's free Palestine right now. 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 Free Palestine right now.
Yeah.
Free Palestine right now.
There's a fire inside of me.
All right. Another pop quiz. Who can guess who's at the end of this song? I'm gonna be honest with you. I put my heart into this song. This one's a little more vulnerable. So I think it represents how everyone's feeling on the inside on a real level. Let me talk to you. Yeah. I'm tired of the fighting, I'm tired of the trying. Shed so many tears, I'm tired of the crying. Tired of the bullshit, I'm tired of the lies. You can kill me now, I'm not afraid to die. Got people here that need me, so I'm staying alive. I can't quit now, gotta keep my eyes on the prize. Sometimes I get tired of running from my life, but at some point, you gotta stop and fight. The bombs burst and it turns to ash. Crowd of people try to help with the crash. He lost his daughter, she got killed in the blast. I guess in Gaza you gotta be fast. So far, 35,000 have passed, and our government can't get a ceasefire to pass. It's something you would read in the past.
It's gonna be hard for me to leave it in the past, cause I'ma fight for my land. Want me to lie down, but I'ma fight like a man. Ain't going nowhere, I'ma die where I stand. This kind of dedication you can't understand. When the smoke clears, no, we can't be friends. I can't unsee the things I've seen through this lens. No need for us to make amends. Anyway, we all know how it ends. No need to pretend, cause we got receipts. Now let's see how well you accept defeat. We won't stop taking over the streets. We won't stop till Palestine is free. We won't stop till the Congo is free. We won't stop till Sudan is free. I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this one for the families who couldn't make it out of the rubble. For all the big sisters who's forced to be mothers. For all my brothers taking care of their brothers. We all gotta take care of each other.
All right, pop quiz. Who's at the end of this song? One more time.
I'm tired of the fighting, I'm tired of the trying. Shed so many tears, I'm tired of the crying. Tired of the bullshit, I'm tired of the lies. You can kill me now, I'm not afraid to die. Got people here that need me, so I'm staying alive. I can't quit now, gotta keep my eyes on the prize. Sometimes I get tired of running from my life, but at some point, you gotta stop and fight.
It's stunning to see it, and it also makes me very frustrated how easily we dehumanize certain people based on where they live, the color of their skin, their religion. And I don't believe in collective punishment, and I believe that their lives are just as valuable.
Anybody? John Legend. Where's my TikTok live? What's up, TikTok live? What's up, Viking Clan? Sorry, guys, I get a little crazy on TikTok.
Danny. That was nice.
Yeah. Now this song, I have a chant for you in the middle of the song. I talk fast, so keep up. All right? I'm gonna let you know.
Yeah. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Put your life on the line, it's a cost to be free. Allah on my side and the angels with me in the field. Up against the technology, the fight to be free, the American dream. I guess Gaza is American. The world is so blind, it barely can see with no evidence that's embarrassing. You bombing in the school, you a terrorist to me. How come the Zion's nowhere to be seen? They're hiding up in the air, they see and fake profiles just trolling me. This one right here is where I had to meet me. I pulled up a Zionist like a panini. They wanna trade places cause they wanna be me. Wish they could say, don't be Palestinian. Knowing your wishes, I don't need a genie. Allah by my side, so I'm seeing it clearly. If you really with me, I know that you feel me. MashaAllah, y'all making me proud. I open my heart and I talk to the crowds. Free Palestine, I'm saying it loud. Let me hear you. Free Palestine, 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 free. MashaAllah, y'all making me proud. I open my heart and I talk to the crowds. Free Palestine, I'm saying it loud. I go to the cooks, I'm kissing the ground. I give them the facts and they switch it around. When I'm in Ohio, I'm Michigan bound. Netanyahu is our president now, but turn off the news, I don't listen to clowns.
We will exact a price that will be remembered by them and Israel's other enemies for decades to come.
It hurts my ears to listen.
The savage.
Hey yo, them H-boys, they ain't playing, my man.
You might cancel
if
me
your
for this.
boy has a red triangle on his head, that's
Don't hurt
a
him,
done
don't hurt
deal.
him.
Shit, them H-boys are like Oprah Winfrey right now. You getting a red triangle, you getting a red triangle, everybody getting a red triangle.
Yeah. Feds tap my mic. So this song right here, you know, we do a lot as writers. We channel our emotions, and I understand that because of what's happening to our people, that we feel what's happening to them through our emotions process. We feel the empathy, we feel their pain, we hear their cries. I made this song, I put Bisan on the intro because I think she's a symbol of hope and resistance and what it means to keep a smile through some of the most evil, heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching things that we've ever seen in history. So this song is for you, it's for you, it's for you, it's for all of you. This song is for, and yes, of course, you too. Yeah, all the way in the back. Habibi. And this song is for our community. I hope you guys enjoy it. This is going to be the final song of the night. I'm still alive. If you're alive and you're here, you're a survivor, and this is a survivor song.
Hey everyone, this is Wissam from Gaza. I'm still alive so far, alhamdulillah.
Everything I've done is gone. Is gone. I will survive. I'm holding on to the pieces. I'm holding on to the pieces. I'm still alive. Everything I know is gone, but I stand strong. Stand strong. Stand strong. Say it loud. Free Palestine, say it proud. We came too far to turn down. We came too far to turn down. Tell my people be strong. Our faith is not gone. This is not a song, and we are not pawns. We are not numbers. We are not statistics. We are real people with real ambitions, screaming to the world, but no one really listens. Deafened by the silence of these evil politicians. It's too much division. We gotta change the system. I know that you're stressing, all alone and you're battling depression, but keep your head up high. Alhamdulillah, I'm still alive. I'm holding on to the pieces. I'm still alive. Everything I know is gone, but I stand strong. Still alive. Everything I know is gone, but I stand strong. I can feel it in my bones. Hear it calling. I hear it calling me. I hear it calling me. The only place I've known is my home. Is my home. Still alive. I'm holding on to the pieces. I'm still alive. Everything I know is gone, but I stand strong. Whoa.
You know, the media got a lot to say about us, so I figured I would set the record straight. This is who we really are.
Yeah. Yeah, we are the poets, we are the writers, we are the lovers, we are the fighters, we are the journalists and the reporters, we are the sons and the daughters and the mothers and the fathers, we are the sea and the water, we are the land and the olive. Ain't no way that you can take it from us. My brother in Gaza messes me. We sent some money last week. He bought some bags of flour just so the kids had something to eat. While I'm in line ordering the number 3. You're on my mind right now as we speak. Damn, I wish I could trade places with my brother. I hate to be separated from each other.
2024 looks a lot like 2023. Upside down reality. 153 countries vote ceasefire, but what progress to peace could there be when USA has vetoed?
Good.
You see? We're told
I'm Pali Viking.
Bibi and Biden rule the world. They
Drew
hold our
Porter.
best interests at heart.
Make sure you guys follow us on all social medias. Red Triangle is out. Red Triangle 2 is coming out. Drew has Purple Heartbreak out. Make sure you guys run up the streams. And let me get a good chant before I get out of here. Free, free. Free, free. Free, free.
Always keep that energy and don't ever let it go. I love y'all. Salam.
Decimated by the complicit and corrupt, while the borderless state asks Big Brother USA for more weapons, more ways